Fort Douaumont, 1916. Here the German 24th Regiment held out for 9 months against the entirety of freed French divisions in the Battle of Verdun. Except this is only a 2-hour drive away. This is Petersburg, just south of Richmond. Here Grant and a desperate Lee conducted 9 months of trench warfare over Lee's last railroad link to the south. Petersburg, ensnarled by trenches, became one of the first surreal scenes of modern war. The Civil War was the very first modern war. It foreshadows the grinding horror of the world wars while abandoning the Napoleonic era. The Civil War was the very first total war, an industrial war, and the crucible in which modern campaigns and strategy were forged from. In its course, the path for future wars was revealed through scars down Virginia and Georgia, Hampton Roads to Savannah. If we look at America in the antebellum years, we can see a perfect example of a global trend. Compared to previous centuries, the population in North America and the world is simply massive. In this world of industrialized agriculture, armies were able to abandon their oldest concern, a lack of manpower. Now, for the first time in history, populations have grown to where the new limiting factor for an army is production. In this, we see the first industrial war. No longer did feudal lords struggle to find peasants to hold crossbows. The new struggle for the modern commander was to clothe, feed, and arm the vast multitudes that have now left their cities and farms to serve. That the war occurred when and where it did, in an industrial, populous, and advanced country, meant that production won the war. A better armed, better supplied army could choose the location of battle, siege and outlast the enemy, march further, and with the rate of technological development, engage the enemy disproportionately. The Union gained a permanent advantage in its ability to consistently manufacture advanced weapons, shells, and rifles for which the Confederacy couldn't spare a single workshop for. Despite the clear advantages in modern weaponry, the Confederacy only adopted the most basic of rifles, as they couldn't produce anything else fast enough to challenge the Union. This resulted in the Confederates importing so many European machine tools that only bullets were purchased in greater quantity. Cut off navally and logistically from replacement equipment, and with their economy collapsing, the Confederates didn't surrender out of despair or tactical defeat. They only stopped firing when there were no more bullets to fire, no shoes to walk, no more bread to eat. Even their greatest battle, Gettysburg, was a concerted effort to supply their troops. They had a massive army of 75,000, yet they had shoes for 40,000. At Gettysburg there was a shoe factory, so on to Gettysburg they marched. To understand the scale of the Civil War, we must understand the concept of total war. Total war is simply the reclassification of rules relating to what is and isn't a military asset. Total war also encompasses the act of weaponizing an economy to fight another. These rules changed dramatically with industrialization. Before the Civil War, the only targets in a country worthy of destruction were those directly supporting the opposing army. Bridges, forts, shot towers, armories, workshops, and so forth. There was no need to burn down the village market, tear up the roads, or flatten homes. This ancient strategic logic, in place from Rome to Napoleon, becomes completely invalidated in this new war. With every rifle standardized, everything from blacksmiths to ironworks could produce guns and shot. With uniforms standardized, everything from home spinning wheels to automatic looms can produce uniforms. With every boxcar and flatbed car, a travel coach, a single rail line can transport about 5,000 troops per day. Thus, it follows a logical conclusion that the old laws of war are obsolete, and every machine and building that could be producing war goods must be destroyed, for production wins the war, and the war must be won. As Fort Sumter burned, there were 4 Union officers who understood this new reality of war. General Winfield Scott, commander since the War of 1812, built the Union strategy off of 40 years of wartime experience. Abraham Lincoln, who held deep understanding of the sources of Southern power and planned to destroy them. U.S. Grant, a colonel in backwoods Illinois, recognized immediately the importance of a Union-held Mississippi River and prepared for a long Western campaign. And William Sherman, close friend of Grant, who became the very champion of total warfare. General Scott and President Lincoln were as much a pair as Grant and Sherman. Mutual respect abounded, with Lincoln frequently drawing on Scott's raw experience for his grandest strategies. Out of this partnership came the Anaconda Plan, in which both men consigned the economy of the South to a slow death. By enforcing total blockade on Southern trade and by capturing the Mississippi, the export-focused economy of the South lost its very ability to export. The plan was fully embraced as the Union strategy, enforced by fleets of ironclads and armies marching along the banks of the Mississippi. So effective was this blockade that Southern cotton exports dropped 95%, and desperate Confederates resorted to blockade runners, developing ironclads, submarines, and overloading their own railway network. Lincoln's greatest act of total war was subtle, and also known as the Emancipation Proclamation. To understand this, we must remember that there are three resources required for an economy to function: materials, capital, and labor. Materials were destroyed through the blockade and directly by the Union Army. Confederate money was cut off from gold, making their capital worthless. And now, by granting Union armies the ability to liberate any Confederate slaves they saw, Lincoln attacks the final component, labor. While a destroyed steel mill or loom can be replaced in a matter of months, a slave takes 18 years, making every slave freed an irrecoverable blow to the economy of the South. Meanwhile, the tag team of Grant and Sherman preferred a more active approach to total war. After the fall of the Mississippi River, the Confederacy lay split in two. Thus, as Grant was called up to the Army of the Potomac, Sherman took the armies of the Western Theater eastward, on a merry jog to burn Atlanta to the ground. Marshalling in the suburbs of the once state capital, Sherman ushered in modern war in a few simple sentences of Special Order No. 120. There will be no general train of supplies. The Army will forage liberally on the country during the march. To Army Corps commanders alone is entrusted the power to destroy mills, houses, cotton gins, etc. Should guerrillas impede our march, commanders should order and enforce a devastation more or less relentless. It took Georgia and the Carolinas 30 years to recover from him. Nowhere is the face of modern war more clear than Petersburg. Lee's last railroad link to the southern heartland, his loss at Petersburg became his surrender. The surrender took 9 months of trench warfare. It would do well to step back here, away from grand themes analysis, and let the battle show itself as the new face of war. Initial attempts to cut the rail lines into the city failed. As both armies settled in for a siege, cannon fire from within the city forced Union troops to dig elaborate trench works to hide from explosive shot and rebel marksmen. Union raids into the city have forced the Confederates to do the same. For 3 months, both sides' trench lines are engaged in a bloody race to the James River, eventually warping the front into a semicircle. With Lee now surrounded, Union trenches became dotted with Gatling guns and wooden forts. We know of at least 50 such guns deployed over a 2-mile area by the river, turning the entire area into a killing field. Union balloons go up in the first week, 800 feet off the ground. Each has exactly 2 cables, one a tether, another a telegraph. Union cannon grow more accurate with each balloon, every single shot recorded and adjusted through the telegraph, creating an aircraft-directed artillery bombardment in only the first week. There are still 9 months to go. Tunnels begin to be dug, and 2 months in, bombs snuck under Confederate trenches to blow them wide open. The ground has been chewed up by months of cannon shot. Craters from mines dot the hills. A forest on the left flank is gone. The city burned out months ago. The foreshadowing cannot be clearer. In Petersburg, the line of battle, the Napoleonic order, was found dead in the bottom of a trench. In a city looking like firebombed Dresden, and farm fields churned into replicas of the Somme, the modern way of war was firmly entrenched. Total war rears its head over the torn-up railroads and burnt-out factories. Here, the flag of the Union finally flies, but it graces only the ruins of modern industry.